Okay, so I think it's important to start off, for those of you who are new to the channel, that I've always been very vocal against Resident Evil 4. Not so much because I hate the game, I just feel it's one of the most overrated games of all time. I've had fun with it. It's not a bad game that I think is given too much praise like some other games, but I feel it's just an okay game that is given way too much praise. Like, I've heard so many people say it's the greatest survival horror game ever made. No, not even close. Like, I've heard some people say it's the scariest game they've ever played. Like, if that's the case, do not play Alien Isolation. You will not be able to survive that. You will have a heart attack if you think this is the scariest game ever made. So, this will be the third time I'm reviewing this game on the channel. I initially had a PC review of the first PC port, not the HD PC port that I've heard is pretty good, actually. So that was the first one, and then I reviewed the remake. And the remake fixed a lot of issues, but it introduced some new ones that the original didn't have, which was weird to me. So I was about to kind of move on from that and, move on to other endeavors, reviews, whatnot. And then they announced that there was a free VR mode for the PlayStation VR2 coming to Resident Evil 4. And I've always kind of been intrigued in experiencing this game in VR, especially since when the MetaQuest VR Resident Evil 4 came out for the original Resident Evil 4, it's like, kind of need to have a MetaQuest 2 just to see what that's like. And also see if you can actually walk while aiming a gun. Then the remake got announced, and a lot of people were talking about this one. And so since I just reviewed the PlayStation VR 2, I figured I might as well do yet another video on this game to see how the VR mode is. So, after doing so, to my surprise, I think this game finally has made me a believer, because I now actually have barely anything negative to say about Resident Evil 4. Let's get into it. Okay, so just a couple things to start off with. Not everything's been fixed, obviously. Like, some of the narrative problems are still there. Like, case in point, I've played this game, I don't know, I think over 7 times, which is interesting since I've never been a huge fan of this game. Just something about it always brings me back. But with all the times I've played this, both remake or original, I still, for the life of me, do not know why Ashley was kidnapped. And, like, someone was telling me that it's because they wanted to get close to the President of the United States, which I know you might be thinking, dude, that's a big spoiler, but no, it's not, because they never freaking tell you. So they never, like, go, yeah, this is why she was kidnapped. It's like, yeah, you might be able to figure it out if you play the game 25 times. But, I mean, like, that's the dumbest logic ever, if that is the reason why she was kidnapped. Like, oh, it's so that they could get close to the US president and infect him. It's like, okay, no, that could work. But that's like me saying I'm going to travel from New York to LA on a pogo stick. There's a lot more simpler ways to accomplish that than using a pogo stick. And Ashley Graham is a pogo stick, especially when it comes to her intelligence. Yeah, so many people with the remake were saying, oh, they improved the AI of Ashley so much. It's so incredible. Her AI is so much better in so many ways. Her AI is objectively worse in the remake. I have never experienced such stupid AI before in my life. I would rather have the AI of the original RE4, which is not saying much because I will acknowledge that AI was pretty stupid, but it's nothing compared to the AI here. And I would say 80% of the time I died in this game now in VR, it was because of Ashley's really insanely stupid AI. So that has not changed. The AI for Ashley is still at an all-time worse. So going into this game, I was genuinely blown away by how graphically beautiful it was. I mean, VR, obviously you take a hit in terms of visuals to a point, but with the VR version of this game, I felt like I was playing the PS4 version. Yes, the PS5 version is going to look better. It's going to be a better resolution. It's going to have more defined textures. But holy hell, this is one of the best looking VR games I've ever experienced. I mean, they really nailed it. They really pushed the power of the headset. Okay, the PS5, because the headset's just a glorified TV screen. But they really pushed the power of this game so that it looked as good as, I'd say, the PS4 version. And that's impressive. So I can't wait to see what they do with Resident Evil 9 or whatever VR mode Capcom does next, because if this is the beginning of the VR2 headset's life cycle, I can't wait to see what they do at the end of it. And another thing, I said this with my Gran Turismo 7 video, but it's worth knowing again, I never got sick while playing this. I don't know if it's because I'm better at optimizing the comfort controls now, or if it's the better graphics in the headset, but just, I never once got woozy to my stomach. I played this thing for hours on end at times. It wasn't like I was doing it in 30-minute chunks. Like, I like knuckled down and played the hell out of this game in VR. I even started a second playthrough with VR to upgrade more weapons. So I definitely played the hell out of this, and I never once got sick. Sweat like a pig, and a few times I got a little bit of a headache, but never got sick. So just throwing that out there. Again, it could just be I'm getting better at the comfort settings, or it could be the better graphics in the headset, and they've done better things to prevent you from getting woozy. Now, another interesting thing is in first-person view now, a lot more things are more noticeable. Especially with the headphones on, you can hear like treasure items in the environment that I never saw prior. And so it's like, oh, what's this over here? I hear something swinging, and then I see a piece of treasure hanging. I was like, how many times have I played this? I never once looked there. And so just adding more your senses into the game really opens up the world for you. It's really cool. But like other little details, like seeing Leon and Ashley's infected arms in first person, I never knew that they actually put that detail in the game. And then when I saw a 2D version of the game again, it's like, I never noticed that on his arms. And in VR, you can actually notice it throughout the entire game. So a lot of attention to detail, and also a lot of little things I never noticed on the 2D flat screen version that I now noticed in the VR version. Now, one of the things that initially was a huge issue was the drastic cuts to third person. So how they did it was anytime a cutscene comes on, it just takes you out of experience, and you see this like screen in front of you in a black void playing the cut screen. It's like, okay, that's like a half-assed way to do it, fine. And then anytime you do like a counter move on an enemy, the camera moves out of your first person perspective, goes to a third person lock perspective, you see the action, and then it goes back to first person. It's really distracting. It really takes you out of the experience at the beginning. Over time, you get used to it, and then by the end of the game, you don't even notice it. So, I don't know if I want to hold that against the game or not, because ultimately, it did work, and all things considered, it probably was the best way they could get this to work in VR. So, I think I'm going to say I'm not going to hold it against them just because it does eventually work and you do eventually get used to it. Now, one of the big game changers with the VR mode, I don't know if this is in any official patch notes, but they nerfed the Chainsaw Zombies for the better. That was one of my biggest criticisms in the Resident Evil 4 remake, is they made the chainsaw enemies so overpowered, so unbelievably cheap, that the boss enemies in the game were not as hard as the chainsaw enemies. Anytime I came across them, I stopped having fun, and I wanted to break the disc in half. They are some of the most cheap, lame, overpowered enemies I have ever faced. And so when going into this in VR, I was like, okay, I have to put up with these motherfuckers again. Okay, like that is just how much I hate that aspect of the remake. Never had this issue in the original game, just FYI, on professional even. So it's not a me issue. It's something the developers did. They overpowered them. Well, in the VR mode, they surprisingly went down easy. And it's not because I had better aim in VR, which I did. But, like, seriously, I didn't have to unload every single round of ammo into them playing through the game. Even with my weapons not upgraded. Like, in the initial review I did of the Resident Evil 4 remake, the weapons, especially the shotgun, was so underpowered, it was useless. It did nothing to them. And in this one, the stock-based weapons I had access to, like I did in the regular 2D flat screen mode, they took down the Chainsaw Zombie, like, far more effectively. And so, yeah, they nerfed them for the better. Now, and it's not like they're pushovers. They're still very, very challenging. They're boss fights now, instead of insanely, ungodly, overpowered, like unforgiving monstrosities. They're now as equal to the boss fights in this game, and it's actually nice. It's like a nice challenge. It's not overly difficult. It's not too easy. It's a nice challenge, and that is such a huge improvement with this game. And so I don't know if the developers did that with the 2D mode. I haven't bothered to check the 2D mode, but like honestly, I'm probably never playing this game in 2D mode again. That's how much fun I had with this VR version of the game. And then aiming is an absolute dream in this game. I mean, typically with a game, you're using a controller, and when I transitioned from PC to console, one of the biggest problems was aiming a gun with a controller. It was a nightmare. It took me months to get used to it, if not years, and I'm still not entirely used to it, but it just doesn't come close to mouse aiming. However, in VR, like, you could actually aim with your hand like an actual firearm, and you can actually aim down the sights in VR. This is a holder for a PS3 move, for those of you interested. So, and you don't need this for Resident Evil 4 VR. I was just using it as an example, but you can actually aim with your rear hand, and I was pulling off so many headshots, not because I had the game on easy, just because when you can actually aim like a real gun, and if you've actually fired a real gun before, this thing, you're going to start feeling like a complete ultimate badass. And never before playing this game did I ever feel like Leon Kennedy was, or more accurately, I never felt like I was a badass that they were trying to make Leon Kennedy out to be. But in this mode, the VR mode of the Resident Evil 4 remake, I started feeling like a specialized top secret agent badass with all the headshots I was pulling off and the cool knife moves I was doing. And it's really great being able to aim realistically now, it's so much fun. And then another thing is that the knife is much easier to use and block with now. Admittedly, this is a me issue. I was not able to really use the knife that much in Resident Evil 4 Remake because my finger dexterity is not the best. And so while aiming, in order to pull out the knife, I had to stop aiming and then hit the button for the knife. And then by the time I pull out the knife, the enemy's on top of me, like, biting my throat out. So it never was practical for me to pull out the knife because anytime I needed to, it was in a situation where it would have been, I wasn't quick enough to pull it out before the enemy got me. So I just resorted to rarely ever using the knife. And you can get through the game like that. But now that you're using both arms and you're not using your fingers, you can actually, while aiming with your other free hand, I'm a lefty so I aim with my left hand, you can with your free hand pull out the knife and start stabbing the enemy while you're firing into them or keeping them at bay. Or you can have the knife at the right underneath your pistol, which looks so cool in VR. And if an enemy gets close, you just stab him in the face. And you can also throw the knife, I believe, which is pretty cool when you pull it off. A little bit harder though than you'd think. And definitely you want to have the wristband on your wrist when you're doing that throw thing, because sometimes the VR controller will come out of your hand when you're like throwing. And having the knife at the right, anytime an enemy went to strike me, I could always swing it and hit their thing. And so I was blocking stuff left and right. I was doing stabs, and with the gun I was doing these really awesome things that I never did in the 2D version of this game. And just real quick, it's always, I said this in the last review, but get the primer. No, I said it in the hints and tips video for VR on this game, but get the primer knife as fast as possible because it is so stupid that the knife breaks after 3 or 4 uses. It's one of the dumbest things ever introduced into a video game. It doesn't make the game harder. It doesn't make it more challenging. It's just dumb. It's stupid. Anyone who's actually used a knife before can tell you, unless you're jamming that thing against a rock, it's not going to break that easy. And so I know it'll take you a playthrough, but you're going to play through this multiple times. Just read up where all the little figurines are and get the primer knife. And once you have the primer knife, you're going to have so much more fun because you'll have a realistic knife then that, doesn't break when cutting flesh. Another thing is, like, gun models are really cool in VR. Being able to, like, look at the manufacturing name on one of the guns, turning around, looking all over, looking at the shotguns, the rifles, it's just a lot of fun. But then seeing some of the enemies in first person really like tightens up your spine. There's a character gallery where you can like just spin around and look at all of the like character models and like the regenerators and those like Wolverine blind guys. I don't know what they're called. Someone will tell me in the comments down below. But the giant hulking things with the 3 blades that can't see. That thing is super intimidating to see in first person. Just like, nah. And so doing a boss fight one of those is something else. One of the biggest things though in this game is the ability to dual wield. Never before have I seen this introduced into a game that just drastically changes it. And in the base 2D version, you can't dual wield. But in this game, you can have a gun in each hand. And it is amazing. Now, I don't do it all the time because you run out of ammo pretty quick. But anytime one of those chainsaw enemies starts lumbering towards me, or a boss that's coming towards me, and I'm firing out my pistol, I just reach to my side, pull out like the tactical machine pistol or shotgun, and just start unloading into the enemy. And it is so much fun Does it make the game super easy? Of course it does. But it is so much fun to do it. And to save it for those boss encounters, or those encounters where I'm getting swarmed and I can just pull out that TMP and just spray the field and get everyone back. It is so much fun. And so, definitely a huge game changer with this video game. Another neat touch is that the DLC weapons do work in the VR mode. So, like the pistol you can buy and the lever action shotgun does work in this VR mode. Also, in VR, you can reload it one-handed, like Terminator 2 style. And you can't reload one hand in the flat screen 2D version that I know of. So, it's pretty awesome to be able to just, like Auto in Terminator 2, just reload it with one round and then fire off a round into a zombie's head. Something I forgot to mention with the last review of the remake that is worth mentioning here is in the remake they made flashbang grenades more crucial to saving your ammo, because there's certain enemies you could one-shot kill them with the flashbang grenade, and if you didn't, you had to use a lot of ammo to take them down. Before the remake, I never used grenades. They were like kind of just useless to me. I just relied on weapons and they took up inventory space. But with the remake, I started making room for flashbang grenades, and in the VR mode, I used all the grenades. I used the basic grenade, the incendiary grenade, the flashbang grenades, the giant ass grenades. I used them all. Never before had I used the grenades as much as I did in the VR mode, and so it was awesome. So looking back, like honestly, so many of my criticisms of the original game and of the remake were addressed here. Or if not addressed, just the cool factors overshadowed them so much. And so outside of one dumb AI and some inconsistent story writing, this game is freaking amazing. I had so much fun with this. This is possibly the only way I'm going to ever play Resident Evil 4 now, is in this VR mode, because it is just so much fun. And it's almost there to say this is worth getting a PlayStation VR2 for. Not quite. I think we still need to see a couple of more unique experiences, but like this is definitely a must-buy if you get a PlayStation VR2 headset, without any question. If you get a VR2 headset, grab this as fast as possible. And the neat thing about this, if you already have Resident Evil 4, it's a free download at the time of this recording. Some companies have been really fishy with that. They go, oh, it was only free for like the first year. So as it is right now, it's free, but you never know. If you have 4, grab that, even if you don't have the headset, just in case, because like that has happened. Some companies have like gone, oh yeah, that was just for the first year, didn't you know that? So anyway, that's been my review of Resident Evil 4 VR mode, or the Resident Evil 4 Remake VR mode. What did you guys think? Do you have any comments about this game? Say off in the comment section down below. My name is Chris Rukoff, 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all for today.